Long ago, salt was a precious commodity. People traveled for days to get it from distant villages. They kept their salt hidden in safe places because it was so precious. This is the story of Athampu, a simple man from a village. Athampu lived with his wife and many children. One day his wife told him, "We have no more salt. You must go and get salt for our family. You can barter these clothes for it." Athampu heard that some villagers were planning a trip to get salt. His daughter wanted to go with him, but he decided it was too dangerous for her. It was a long, difficult journey, and they would have to walk through dense forests for days. Athampu set off with the other villagers on the long trip to get salt. After weeks of travel, he finally returned home with a big basket full of salt. The youngest child, with messy hair and pants, barely held up by a rope, pointed at the basket and said, "Look, father has brought back salt." Athampu opened the basket and showed his children the flat pieces of the salt cake. One of the children asked, "Is this really salt? It looks like a sticky rice cake." Athampu laughed and said, "Yes, this is salt. Tonight we will have salt with our rice." That evening, the family enjoyed a great meal. Everyone was happy and full of smiles. Later that night, Athampu and his wife talked far into the night about the basket of salt. His wife finally said, "You need to hide the basket of salt somewhere safe. Make sure no one finds it." "I'm thinking the same thing," Athampu replied. "I'll hide it tomorrow." The next morning, while his wife and children went to work in the fields, Athampu took the salt cakes, wrapped the basket in cloth so no one would see, and went into the forest to hide it. He walked for a while until he found a tall tree. He climbed it and hid the basket high in the branches, thinking, "No one will ever find it here." But as he climbed down, he started to worry. What if birds or ants find it and eat the salt? So, he climbed back up and retrieved the basket from the tree. He continued searching for a better hiding place. After walking deeper into the forest, he found a dark cave hidden behind some vines. "This is perfect," he thought. "No one will ever find it here." He placed the basket inside the cave, feeling proud of his cleverness, and started heading home. But halfway home he stopped. "Wait, what about rats?" he thought. "They love dark places. They'll eat all the salt." So Athampu rushed back to the cave, took the basket, and walked even farther. Finally, he came to a river. The water was calm, and large rocks surrounded it. It seemed like a peaceful spot. Some strange thing seemed to be calling out to him to hide his treasure in the river. Suddenly, Athampu had an idea. "I'll hide the basket in the water. No one will look here and no animals will get to it." He waded into the water to a corner he had spotted earlier. When he reached it, he slowly lowered the salt basket into the water and lodged it firmly near a big rock. "There, it will be safe now. And no cunning rats, birds, or other animals or humans will be able to spot that. Now my mind will find peace," said Athampu to himself, and went home very pleased. By the time he returned home, it was almost sunset. His wife asked Athampu, "Where have you hidden our basket? Were you able to find a safe place to hide it?" "Yes, nobody will be able to find it," Athampu said with an all-knowing smile. Weeks passed, and the festival season was approaching. Athampu's wife said, "We need the salt for the festival, go and get it." Athampu went to the stream and pulled the basket out of the water. When he pulled the basket out of the water, he was horrified. The salt was gone. It had all dissolved in the water. Angry and confused, he shouted, "The shrimp in the water have eaten all my salt." Determined to punish the shrimp, Athampu caught a tiny shrimp and took it home. He told his eldest daughter to cook a meal with the shrimp, and they all sat down to eat. Before they began, Athampu made an announcement. "If you find a shrimp in the curry, give it to me." A little later, one of his younger sons called out, Look, here's the tiny shrimp, I found it." And he popped it into his mouth. At that, Athampu jumped up and in a flash reached his son. He caught hold of him, forced open his son's mouth, took out the tiny shrimp, and said, "Since this shrimp is the thief who has eaten all my salt, I must eat it. This will be the punishment for the shrimp. Look how red it is. It is ashamed for having eaten all that salt by itself." And Athampu ate the shrimp while his whole family watched him. So whenever an endeavor fails due to stupid planning, it is said, "It is like Athampu's hiding of the salt." And when parents are unmindful of their children's needs, elders chide them by saying, "Athampu took from his child's mouth and ate,